After moving to that house, my life changed for the worse. I gained haunting memories and phobias, horrifying images stuck in my head that I will never be able to shed. I was 23 at the time, and I had just gotten my first job, but it was out of state, and I had to move away from my family. It was a stressful time in my life. I felt mixed emotions about living in a house all by myself, so far away from my family in New Jersey, mostly a mix of excitement and nervousness. Of course, I didn't have much money at such a young age, so the house I was moving into was kind of old and run down. It was a fixer-upper, to put it lightly, but it did come with a good amount of furniture. I remember the night I arrived at the house after the long drive. It was probably close to 10 o'clock. Lugging that giant duffel bag of clothes up to the empty house, dropping the bag on the porch, pushing the key into the keyhole and turning it, unlocking more than just the door, but a whole new chapter to my life. The rest of my life, of independence. Of course, at that time, I didn't know what I was really walking into. On that first night, I tried to familiarize myself with the house a bit. There was a living room, a kitchen, a dining room, a basement, 2 bedrooms upstairs, and 2 bathrooms, one upstairs and one in the basement. I had the basic necessities furniture-wise, a fridge, an oven and microwave, a couch, a bed, and such. All the floors were wooden and a bit creaky. It was more of an ideal place for an old woman, but the price was right. I was so exhausted that I just brushed my teeth and went to sleep on that old bed in the bedroom, not caring how dirty it might have been. The first night, I laid awake for probably an hour, with the silence constantly being broken by cracks of wood and other house weathering sounds. All was fine the next morning. I ate at the nearest IHOP, got some groceries, and headed back home. Getting out of my car, I saw a woman next door getting into her car. She noticed me. I gave her a wave and slowed down, half expecting her to come over and introduce herself. But all she did was return a wave before getting into her car and driving off. Now, I was used to having unfriendly neighbors, but there was something about the way she looked at me that made me uncomfortable. I detected a hint of worry in her face. I shrugged it off and went inside. I spent the better part of the night watching TV on the old rabbit-eared television that was left in the house. When I decided to call it a night, I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth. Due to a force of habit, I still shut the door while in the bathroom. But while I was brushing my teeth, I heard the faint sound of a single knock on the bathroom door. I felt my heart drop, and I jumped back against the wall in response. The sound caught me off guard. It wasn't the sound of wood settling or anything like that. I distinctly heard the sound of a fist hitting the door. I'm living on my own now. I'm a grown man. So now I have to be a man. I turned the knob and pushed the door open with force, lunging out into the black hallway, expecting to run into somebody. But there was nothing at all. I flipped the light switch to the hallway on. All the doors were still shut just as they were before, except for the door to my bedroom. I took a deep breath and ran straight into the room, literally flailing my arms everywhere, expecting to hit somebody. I stopped and took a good look around the room. I was the only living soul in the room. So that was it. There was no other possible place an intruder could have gone. I would have definitely heard them run down the creaky old steps, and I would have heard any of the doors close. I was at this point convinced it was just my imagination, or more house noises, maybe a mix of both. I had trouble falling asleep that night. I jumped at every little noise, paranoid of my surroundings. I was acting like a terrified little kid. After flipping over trying to get comfortable for the 100th time, I noticed the door to my bedroom was open. From what I remembered, I had not left it open. And then I realized there was something poking in at the edge of the door. I sat up and tried to adjust my eyes to see what the hell that thing was. My eyes adjusted to the dark ever so slightly, but it was enough to make out the object to be the face of a woman, and she was undoubtedly staring at me, laying in my bed. I crawled up in fear, screaming like a 5-year-old. The head moved away from the doorway out of sight. I threw my hand to the desk, shoving things onto the floor as I desperately tried to find my phone. The feeling of the plastic case never felt so good as I dialed 911. I stayed curled up in my bed like a baby until the police arrived. I rushed down the stairs to the front door to let them in and explained to the officers that somebody was in my house. One of the officers questioned me, asking how I knew, what they looked like, and where I saw them. I explained that I saw a woman poking her head into my bedroom, just staring at me. I told him it was too dark to make out any discernible features. The two officers rushed inside to look for an intruder as I sat by the curb waiting with the other officer that came in the second patrol car. After about 20 minutes, the officers came out and told me that they searched every single room and closet, but there was absolutely no sign of anybody. The officers proceeded to ask me some questions, eventually asking if I live alone, to which I responded that I just moved away from my family all the way in New Jersey. The police officers looked at each other, and one of them stepped forward and claimed that he knew what was going on. The officer said that he's seen this happen many times before. When a young man or woman moves far away from their family, they often get homesick and start to think that they're seeing things, commonly the images of people. It didn't seem impossible. I had no other explanation. The officer assured me that nobody was in my house and that I just needed some time to get used to living alone. I thanked the officers and they drove off into the night, leaving me to go back into the house.